G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared, and our voice in the void is WalkerBait. How are you doing, WalkerBait?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So we had a look at your fleet, and I think, Algared, how would you put it? I would put this as very much as one of those fleets that is more of someone trying to figure out what ships they actually want to buy, more than one that's budget focused.
So it's not a budget-focused fleet. It's not a massive fleet, but it's a fleet where WalkerBait seems to have come to us and said, "Hey, I'm not sure where I'm going. So help me find my bearings again." Because and I'm also new to the CCU game, so it was a twofold type of approach, I felt.
Yeah, I think the biggest difficulty was figuring out the professions he wanted to do. I think that was once we worked that out, it was more of a clear direction. And I think the difference between where we start and where we end is quite different. So yeah, so let's have a look at it. We'll kick it over to the browser and go from there. So this is your.
This is the starting fleet.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us about your choices? So I guess we'll start with the obvious vehicles here. So these are mostly LTI tokens, I assume.
Yeah. The STVs are LTI. There's 3 of them, and then the mule is 120 month.
Yep. And so, what about the Pirate Gladius? What's the draw to the pirate ship? Is the pirate life for you?
No, the pirate life for me, or it's not for me.
Or is it just? Or was it just because it was fire engine red?
No. Yeah. No, I had some money in the game as far as store credit goes, and so I spent it because it was just sitting there. So
to make that joke relevant, you're a firefighter, yeah? I have to say it because otherwise it looks like
I was going to do that as well.
Yeah, I was like
a joke.
Yeah,
he was chuckling at it, but no one else would get it until we said, "Oh, yeah."
Sure, yeah. No, I didn't think about it like that, but maybe now, since you said that, maybe I'll keep it. I don't know.
All right, and the Sentinel. What was your thoughts behind that one?
The Sentinel, I upgraded from a MSR. It was mostly because the MSR had been my daily driver, but I got tired of trying to do missions, especially like bounty hunting missions, and not being able to really hold my own. So I bought a CCU for $20 from the MSR to the Sentinel, and I applied it. It's kind of become my daily driver. So yeah.
Okay. And the last ship.
Last ship is my favorite ship, the Carrack. So like I said in another stream you did, I don't know how I did it, but I used CCUs and I paid $608 for it. So I mostly use it for medical beacons. Sometimes I get bored with the Sentinel, and I take out my Carrack. So yeah.
All right. So the other thing you kind of gave us was a budget of about $1,600. So we've tried to stick into that, and we've probably gone a little bit beyond that as well. So we've technically gone $100 over budget with what we've recommended, but that also doesn't take into account Warbond CCUs and other significant savings. So I think very easily you can get it back down to your budget. Algared, is there anything you want to add?
Before we go any further, what are the professions that you told us you actually want to do?
By the way, audience, this is funny as shit, right? It's just listen. Yeah. WalkerBait, meet bus, bang. Yeah, go.
Yeah, so I love the idea of salvage. I love I know it's not fully fleshed out, but the idea of going in, doing some hull scraping, taking the components and then eating the ship up with my reclaimer. You know, I mean, like that idea of gameplay is amazing to me. Otherwise, I really enjoy helping others in the game. And so if that's a medical beacon, I'll respond to it. If it's hey, I need picked up, I'll respond to that. So really, I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if somebody just needs help learning the game, I'll stop what I'm doing and try to help them.
So that wasn't funny. That was actually really kind. But this is funny. So he said salvage, cargo, repair, and medical. The only one that hits that beat at all for me is probably the cargo and the medical in the Carrack, right? And that's not its primary function. So we were like, whoa, this guy, you know, we got red flags straight off the bat. So we look for red flags to identify things that are really obvious to fix. And to us, that was really obvious. So when we flip over to the next fleet, it's you can see what his problem was. He couldn't determine what gameplay he was after. That to me was the core thing. Yeah, Algared.
Yeah, I think when he said salvage is the absolute thing for me, and it went into the detail of what he's looking forward to and hoping to be able to do, the hull scraping, the ripping out the interiors, the sucking the fuel out, the then munching it up in a reclaimer, and we're looking at the fleet and we're going, where's the salvage? You know, and I think you almost had I think you'd have almost had a jump for joy because yes, he wants a reclaimer.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I know it's your favourite ship. You know, so.
But he was also apologizing, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasted your time." And I'm like, "But this is a part of it. Like we've said this before. Like this is like maybe a 10 to 25-minute show that we record here, right? But it's always we didn't leave a lot of time for this today because it was a smaller fleet, and it actually, I'm going to be honest with you, Algared, this took longer than I thought it was going to take. I think it took us 2 hours, maybe. Right, so this is
2.5,
and this is relatively quick compared to some of the ones we do, but there's always this stuff in the background, and you've got to. There are these not just these choices that people are just a little bit entangled in. They haven't had time to talk it through or think it through, and sometimes some of the techniques we deploy is just I put people on the spot and I just like answer this question, answer this question, answer this question, and by making them to answer it very quickly, it's instinctual, and they just answer and they know. Right, and that's one of the techniques I did, and I did do that today with you. Didn't know WalkerBait. I really put you on the spot, and you're like, but it worked, right? It did work though. No, at the end of the day, it called you on your bullshit essentially, and you know we got to where we're at. So I'm going to flick it over now, and me and Algared will go through the decisions we make. Now the first thing, Algared, people are going to go, oh, there's a Crucible and Endeavor there, right? But this is because what he picked, right? So that wasn't on me and Algared. That's because his top 4 things are salvage, cargo, repair, and medical. Algared, I'll let you speak your piece.
Well, first ship was a no-brainer for us. It was a reclaimer because the reclaimer is the penultimate salvage vessel. And as he was talking about what he wanted to do, I really look forward, and I'm you know, the idea of going up and scraping a hull and emptying the components and sucking the fuel and munching it up in my reclaimer. So that was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the thing you went into most. And again, getting this order of the professions was a really big thing because there was a couple of things like that order changed 3 or 4 times. You know, as things came in, he goes, "Oh, Connor, I prefer this ship over this one," and I'm
gonna go, hang on, but that doesn't.
But you said this.
The order you've given us.
Yeah, so this was all. Yeah. I think it's because you're relatively. How long have you been in the game for, WalkerBait?
6 months.
So you're still kind of, would you say, agree that you're kind of still learning the ropes on what those potential gameplay loops could be?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I understand the current gameplay and the game loops, but, you know, I also have a lot to learn still of what's to come.
And as we said to you, you kind of are kind of going on feeling, aren't you? Because you don't, you know, you can't play those gameplay loops, so you can't really know 100% certainty what they're going to be. You've just got to go with, you know, your real life knowledge of what you know of those to be in the real world. And go, yeah, that's kind of interesting to me, and or not.
And you got to go and work on what CIG have hinted at the gameplay loop will involve.
Exactly.
But
right. Yeah.
Second ship.
So. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So yeah, obviously the Banner Merchantman is there. That is Algared and mine's pinnacle of cargo. We think it's the best one for that. And again, people will growl at us because we always recommend bigger ships because of that earn down economy. But again, it gives you I think I worded it really well today when we were talking about the Endeavor Algared, and I said the way you've got to look at it is by buying the Endeavor, you're essentially getting the Apollo for cheaper. And what I mean by that is because of the way you can earn them in game, it's far quicker. And so you got to kind of take that mental comprehension. You are kind of getting all the other ships that it can do almost underneath it, and you can just pick and choose. It gives you, like we were saying about the plan we laid out for you today. If you decided to buy more ships down the road, WalkerBait, it is that same thing. It gives you a dynamic plan where you can branch out into all the ships underneath. And once people grab onto that, this is probably the hardest concept for us to get across to people, isn't it, Algared? Is that earn down economy?
But even if you decided, well, I don't need an Endeavour, I don't need a BMM, I don't need a Crucible, and I just want my Reclaimer, because it's the big ship of the salvage.
Yeah,
that would enable him to, by using that, to side grade across and more easily earn the Apollo or the ships that were below it. You don't need to have a BMM to be able to earn a hull C or another ship. You could, if you've got a big ship, you can actually side earn. So the Reclaimer was the number one ship that was chosen just because of that. The BMM, it's a good solid choice for cargo because the shops in it also work as something, as you were saying, he wants to salvage the components out with the Reclaimer.
WalkerBait,
the BMM's markets become a place to, the markets in the BMM become a place where you can sell off that stuff as well. So
they all work together really well. These four ships too. That was a big thing for us. I was just going to say, Walker, what was the thing you mentioned to us about engineering? You were talking about a friend. Was it a friend's Idris? I think you said.
Or was it Polaris?
My best friends in the game. Call out to Icy Bones.
Yep.
He has a Kraken.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to get any larger military vessels, is because I've kind of been wanting to just focus on the engineering gameplay with his ships because he already owns those. So that's kind of, when it comes to military ships, I want to be that support role for his fleet.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you had been, he'd asked you to be the engineer on that ship, hadn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was volunteer. No, what was it?
Volunteered.
Volunteered.
Yeah.
Volunteered to the
thrust
role.
Forward. But that obviously brought up the engineering gameplay that led into repair, and obviously, as Algared and I will tell you, it pairs very well with the salvage, and so that's where the Crucible came in, and we started talking about, again, we went back to the professions and start talking through, and the Crucible started lower, and it rose and rose and rose, and there were other ships that dropped back as well, so the Endeavour dropped back behind that, but for the price that he had given us, these are the ships that he can attain. We've also given him some other ships that are on the list, so if he does go further into the game, gives him choice. Not saying that that's what we recommend, but if he wants to go in there and go deeper, he can. So he's got other ships to roll into if he decides that he wants to go further into the game. So he's got this dynamic plan that works. And obviously, as I said earlier, with Warp on CCUs, he can get this even cheaper. I think very easily you can knock $100 off the top of this Algared. I don't know. Would you say the same?
Yeah, most likely. Like, certainly if he goes in to the IE, buys the CCUs to each of these ships from the closest always available stable ship, that will lock in the price of each of those ships. So you can lock in the price of an Endeavour for $350, you can lock in the price of a Crucible for $350, you can lock in the price of the Bannerman at its current price, you can lock in the price of the Reclaimer at its price. And then from that point, it's just use a CCU token and just slowly, as time goes on, fill in the gaps with either war bond tokens or using credits to fill in the gaps. So, and with that, you should easily be able to knock off $100 off that end price in the long run. So yeah,
100%.
Awesome.
All right, so
I'm very happy.
That was going to be my question. Are you happy? You got a plan going forward now. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I will say I'm surprised that I went into this thinking they asked me what ship I have to have. It would have to be the Carrack, but I was surprised that I'm leaving this not feeling like I need to have the Carrack.
The option is there too, isn't it? So you can always,
yeah.
We've given you some choices, and I think that's
I think if it,
I was just going to say, not every Fix My Fleet ends that way, right? That's one of the things we said towards the end is some people, like, they've got one choice and they've got nothing else. You've got a very broad dynamic plan, so you can scale it to your needs. Sorry, Algared.
And I think in terms of the ships, like of the other ships down the list of the things in terms of the order of what he was saying, what WalkerBait was saying he wanted, the Carrack is the next ship that would be on the ship on the list to buy. So, but if we're sticking with his budget at the moment, it's off the table.
Yeah, so I'll read out the professions again just so everyone's on the same page as me and Algared and WalkerBait. So it's salvage, cargo, repair, medical, exploration, bounty hunting, and then mining. And so we've basically just cropped that back to feed his budget. But obviously the other ships just to put on the table. So for exploration, it's the Carrack. For bounty hunting, it's either the Redeemer or the Polaris, depending on, you can work out your scale there. Is it org related or is it with friends? Yep, that's your scale. And then obviously with the mining, it's the Orion. So yeah, but obviously getting everything, I think it blew out his budget by over $1,000. So you can't have everything when you work into a budget. So it's reality. So yeah,
and I don't have to have everything. So
that's it. But again, as I said to you, if you win the lotto or whatever, you can you can come back and put more money in. It gives you a flexible plan, and that's what we like, because then this game's still years away. Time changes. You just don't know how much money you can put in or not put in. So, and it also allows you to roll it back too. We also went that way as well, didn't we? So, like, if you don't want to spend $1,600 and you want to roll it back, you can get rid of the Endeavor and just go back to the Crucible, the Reclaimer, and the Bannerman. So you've got a good plan there. All right,
and that's again working with that hierarchy of professions that he was interested in. The Reclaimer was number 4. So,
yep. All right, so in the comments below,
the Endeavor was number 4.
In the comments below, what would you like to let us know what you think of his fleet? Have we made some good suggestions? Do you like the plan going forward? So he's got a bit of dynamic there. If there's anything you would actually like to say to WalkerBait as well, I'm sure you'll peruse the comments of this episode when it comes out. And is there anything you would like to hear in the comments, WalkerBait, while I'm thinking of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear any opinions of how it could be a better fleet, or if I'm going down the right direction, that kind of thing. So I really blessed to be on this with you guys, and I appreciate it. So
yeah, no problem. It was great having you. Algared, what
audience,
about you?
Audience, what WalkerBait was just asking is, have we led him down a garden path? Are we mugging him in the alleyway, or are we leading him to the promised land? Now, clearly, I think, because he's obviously going Endeavor and Crucible, we are leading him to the promised land.
I was worried. I'm going to be honest. I was worried when we put it up there. I was like, we're going to get so much shit for this again, because it comes up a lot. But like, believe it or not, people really like that gameplay, and they are just the ships that are, like, at the moment, they just can't be beat. Anyone that watches the show regularly, we don't have to sell you guys on this, because we're not ludicrous, right? Like, they are just such good value for what they are. You cannot pass them up. And they just happen to be the 2 gameplays he's interested in, medical and repair. Yep. They're right there. Not to mention all the other gameplay you get with the Endeavor.
And
the Crucible was my choice.
Yeah.
I did ask.
Crucible is his choice.
I did twist his arm a little bit on the medical, because he was looking at like an Apollo or whatever. But I'm like, it's 75 dexters more. You get that, plus you can earn down to the Apollo, plus you get all the extra gameplay, and that thing is going to skyrocket in value like the Bannerman did. So it's just it's an absolute no-brainer.
the other thing with the Endeavour is the fact that he likes the medical gameplay, he likes the cargo hauling, and the two loaner ships to that are the Cutlass Red, which is medical gameplay, and the C2, which is cargo hauling. So,
yep. All right, with that then, the voice in the void has been WalkerBait. He's been Algared. I've been Execute. We'll catch you in the next one.
so